Hey, welcome here to a brand new episode. I'm your host, Dr. Faith Elizabeth Nanyonga. If you're listening in today, I'd like to take this minute to thank you for each and every time that you tune in to listen to me as I teach about career development and personal development. Your support is invaluable to me, and I don't take it for granted. If it's your first time here, welcome to the Frame Solution podcast. And if you'd like to be a fan, there are 3 ways you can support this show and spread the love. Every single share, subscribe count matters, so do not think your efforts go unnoticed. The first way you could support this show is by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts. Reviews not only make the world a better place for me, as the podcast gets to many ears, but also rank our podcast higher in the podcast charts. You can subscribe to this podcast so that you do not miss out any episode as they are released. And also, you could choose to be a guest on the podcast by sending in an email. The email address is theframesolutions@gmail.com. Thank you once again. In today's episode, we are going to talk about how to prepare for job interviews and not to make mistakes when you're preparing for your job interview. The job interview is probably the most important step when it comes to getting a job, and it's a time for you to show the hiring manager that you have what it takes to be recruited for the position and you're the right candidate. So it's very imperative that you know how to prepare for a job interview. And by knowing how to prepare for a job interview, these are the things that you should do when you're preparing for your job interview. First and foremost, you should review the job description. By reviewing the job description, you're looking at what kind of person they're looking for. Ideally, every job that is advertised or put out there, they include the criteria that you need to meet if you're to be selected for that job, or even be shortlisted for that job interview. So the first thing you need to do is review the job description. By reviewing the job description, you're looking at what they're asking for, what kind of person are they looking for, what skills they're looking for, and what are the conditions of working. Is it full-time? Is it part-time? Is it casual? Is it full-time but contract-based? Are they looking for someone who is flexible? So also the other thing that you need to do, you have to thoroughly research the company. Do not make this mistake of showing up on your day of the job interview and you don't know what the company does. You don't know their mission statement, their vision. You don't know what they work on. It's very important that you review the company documents. Most times it's a website. Go to the website and find out the information about that company. At least have a slight idea. You might not know everything about the job or that company, but at least you have an idea of what they do. Is it a consulting business? Is it a university? Is it a research institution? Research about the company and have a few bullet points about what they do. Actually, it makes very much sense when you're writing your cover letter to include something that you like about that company that you're applying to. So do your research when it comes to the company. The other thing that goes unnoticed is thinking about what you're going to wear to the job interview. Most job interviews nowadays are a little bit relaxed. You might not be expected to wear a suit, but you can come in a business casual. By business casual, you might decide to wear, if you're a woman, you might decide to wear a black dress or a skirt and blouse. The blouse should either be a light color, let's say a sky blue, or white, or cream, or black on black. You might wear a dress, and you might also be able to wear, let's say, formal pants and a button-down shirt if you're a woman. But make sure you don't wear something very tight for your job interview. So dress code matters if you're female. Wear something business casual. You could Google business casual and figure out what business casual outfits look like. If you're a man, you should wear a button-down shirt and a pair of trousers that are not khaki or chinos, just a pair of formal trousers plus a nice polished black pair of shoes and a belt. Refrain from wearing a tie. Ties are too business. It's not business casual. Also think about the journey that you take to the interview. With COVID-19, many things have changed in terms of dress code and also changed in terms of how interviews are conducted. So figure out whether you need to travel to the interview place or you have to do it online. If you're going to travel, factor in the time. You don't want to arrive for your interview very late. So figure out the time that you need to show up for the job interview. Is it 9 or 10? And also it's very important that you cross-check the time the night before. Myself, when I was doing interviews, I thought an interview was at 10:30, yet it was at 10. So it's good to double check the time interview and factor in the time it will take you to travel to the destination where you're going to have the interview. Then also it's important that you have some questions to ask the interview panel while you're doing your interview. Never leave an interview where you do not ask questions. I talked about it in the previous episode where I talked about how to apply for PhDs, but also job interviews are conducted in the same way. You have to have questions to ask the people who are interviewing you. By having questions, you're showing them that you've done your research, you're showing them that you're proactive. If I was the one on the panel and I asked an interviewee, do you have any questions? And the interview doesn't say anything, believe me, that person would stand a low chance to be given the job. So have some questions to ask. If you really need some help when it comes to these questions, I could do an episode about what questions to ask on a job interview. Then also the other thing you have to consider is that after the interview is done, please do yourself a favor and write an email, a thank you email, thanking the interviewers for having time to interview you, for asking you to appear for the interview. Write a thank you note. It might be like, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to interview with you today. I really enjoyed myself and I look forward to hearing from you in regards to your decision on the job. That's something formal. You've showed that you appreciate that they took their time to invite you for an interview and it's courtesy, so do a follow-up. So now I'd like to talk about if you're having a virtual interview. A virtual interview is totally different in terms of how it's conducted. It's that you're doing it online. Preferably this time it's been Zoom and Skype. A virtual interview is done online, so that means you have to show up through a webcam. But also when you're showing up for this interview, you should dress appropriately. Wear at least a top or a dress where your arms are covered and also look presentable. Have your hair well combed, your face looking nice, and also prepare your gadgets that you need to do the interview. So I'm going to go into the depth of how to prepare for this interview. And one of the first things I need to tell you is that cross-check the time that your interview is. Some virtual interviews have been conducted where someone is in a different time zone from the other. So make sure that the time zone that you think the interview is exactly that time zone and the time that's allocated to you to have that interview. So while you're preparing for a virtual interview, first thing that you need to do is to check your surroundings. Be sure that your webcam is turned on because it's a virtual interview, so you need to have a camera for the interviewers to be able to see you. Then have a place that is clean. Your table should not be littered. There shouldn't be children crossing around while you're doing the interview. So designate a place for you to have this interview conducted in. Also, check your equipment. Checking your equipment means check that your computer is fully charged if you need charge. Plug it into the power. Check that your camera is working, that you can be able to see yourself in the screen frame of the webcam that you're using or the computer, and test the microphone to see that there's volume coming out of it. You don't want to start a meeting whereby you're muted and you can hear them but they can't hear you. So check all the equipment before the meeting starts. If your computer needs to be charged, please make sure it's charged and the battery will last for the duration of the interview. Then also check the lighting of the room. Ideally, you should be in a well-lit room where they can be able to see your face. If you don't have a well-lit room, at least put a table lamp or table light that you could use. Also, appearance. Even though you're not interviewing directly face-to-face, your appearance will matter. So still wear a business attire. Make sure that your shirt, if you're wearing a shirt, it's well pressed and ironed. Your collar is right, it's not standing up. That your dress is clean if you're wearing a dress as a woman. And stick to solid colors that aren't too dark and also too light. And stay away from stripes or plaids. So by plaids, I mean a plaid suit. Just wear something solid like black. If you're wearing black, wear black. If you're wearing light blue, let it be light blue. If you're wearing gray, let it be gray. Also, it doesn't hurt for you to do some rehearsal before your interview. By rehearsal, I mean, just get your phone, if you have a smartphone, put the front camera and record yourself as you answer the questions. You might notice that you're over blinking, you might notice that your hands are in a different position. So do practice before you go for the job interview. This practice will help you in terms of your confidence and also will help you in case nerves come in and you can't remember what you are saying or you can't remember your train of thought. So do some practice before you go for the interview. Before I finish this episode, I'd like to talk about the general video interview tips that you might need. First and foremost, keep it professional. Make sure that the username that you have for the Skype or Zoom is a professional name. Do not use any sex objectified names. I talked about them in the previous episode, like sexy mama, hot chick, big girl. Like, keep it to your name. Either both your names, your first name and your last name, or your abbreviation of your first name and your last name. Just keep it professional. Then the next thing is that when you're doing the interview, do not look into your computer. Look into the webcam. When you look into the webcam, you'll show the people that you're looking directly into their eyes, because it's a virtual interview, so you need to have eye contact. And the only way you can have eye contact is by looking through the webcam of the computer. Then, every time you ask a question, pause. By pausing, you're giving yourself time to relax and figure out how to answer the question. With the pausing is that you will pause. Let's say I ask, tell me about yourself. I'll have a pause in between there. Then I'll start speaking. My name is Faith Elizabeth Nanyonga, and I am this and this and this. And by pausing, you let the interviewer finish their sentences in case they're saying something. Do not interject at any one point. Even if you have the answer already, wait for the interviewer to stop talking, then you can start talking. Also, since it's a virtual interview, you could have some cheat sheet. A cheat sheet means that you have your resume closed. So in case they ask you something that you can't remember, you can have it open on your computer and they won't know that it's open. So it's kind of an easier way of doing the interview. And also when you have this, let's say if your resume is in a piece of paper, please just don't show it to the camera like, oh, I'm reading from my resume. But if it's a tab open on your computer, you could refer to it in case they're asking you something by scrolling and figuring out exactly what you need. Who wouldn't want to remember some of the important things on their resume in case they're asked? So keep your resume closed. Also remember that even if this interview is conducted online, they are seeing you. So do not engage in things that are going to disqualify you after the interview. By seeing you means that they are using their webcam to see you. So do not get a piece of paper and put it in your face as you read. That might be possible if you're doing a phone interview, but now you're doing an interview whereby you're on a camera. So they'll be able to see your gestures, what you're trying to fumble around with. So keep it professional. Do not fumble and be confident as you answer every question that you have to answer. So if you follow these video tips, you'll be sure to nail your next interview and hopefully score the job. I hope you've learned something from this episode. And if you have, please rate and review wherever you listen to your podcast. Subscribe to this podcast. Share it with your family, friends, and those that you think are interested in career development. Also, follow me on the socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. The username is The Frame Solutions. I can't wait to speak to you in the next episode. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.